Hello, YouTubers. It's Captain Seaton once again, reporting live from the Vostro Mothership. And just a quick tour of the main rig here in the Vostro Mothership. This chassis that you're looking at, this is a Thermaltake Core V70. And I did something quite unusual. I actually purchased this off the shelf from a Tiger Direct that is obviously no longer in business if you follow those electronic stores. And yeah, I passed by it a couple times. It was up on the shelf, and they actually had them on display. They had motherboards installed in them, and you could literally walk in and kick the tires just like you would at a car dealership. This particular one, right before Tiger Direct closed down, kept walking by and looking at it, and it was missing a lot of the parts. I'm like, well, I really don't want to buy a display model. If they had one in a box, I'd probably take it. So I just kept going back, and eventually one in a box showed up. And they had it marked down to, I think it was around 80 bucks. So best way if you're ready to build a new computer, just buy a chassis. And then, of course, start shopping around for components that will eventually fit inside. This was actually built back in 2015. And, of course, in computer years, that means it's almost ready for the nursing home. But we'll try to keep it going for a few more years. I usually generally try to get between 5 and 7 years out of my builds, and of course the good thing about that is you can constantly upgrade them. Case in point, when this was originally built, it had a 1 terabyte Caviar drive, which was the Caviar Black version, and that particular drive was kind of your media storage or whatnot. I started out with a 850 Pro solid state drive, and of course this one has the M.2 drive, so it has an enterprise version. I think it's an XP941 Samsung. I think it's only a 256 gigabyte. That's kind of what was bleeding edge at the time. The cooling system is a Corsair. It's right here mounted on the back. It's a push-pull fan system. So I got one fan blowing into it, and of course one fan sucking out the back. I got these giant fans, one here on top, two here on the front. Your Blu-ray drive here. Really nice power buttons on these chassis. I kind of did not like the plastic power buttons on the Leanne Lee cases. And this one has a real nice snick when you turn it on, turn it off. Fan controllers here, of course, and some of your ports here on top. You can actually stack. I'm going to show you this. I don't know if you can see too well inside. I don't have too many blinking lights in there. The motherboard is an ASRock Z97 Extreme 6, and power supply Corsair. Got a 750. Trying to think what else we got. G-Skill RAM in there. So we're going to show you some of the specs of this. Move over to the screen. Trying to remember when I built this, so I just checked on Amazon when I bought the processor. I printed this out so you wouldn't see my address, but show you what an i7 would actually cost back then, a Haswell. Let's see, $330 base price, so after you're all done with tax and whatnot, looking at $350 for the Haswell back then. When I got ready to actually build this computer, I was looking to go in a different direction and actually do a more modern motherboard with DDR4 RAM. And a lot of enthusiast websites were actually discouraging it at the time in 2015 because the price of DDR4 RAM was so high. I would have had to limit the machine to probably 8 or 16 gigs to not get the price completely out of control. Also, when building this, I saved a little bit of money. I didn't buy a new monitor. That's still running my, I think it's an 11-year-old Samsung. I've changed the power board in it twice. Actually, I want to say 3 times. I've definitely cracked it open, changed the power board a few times. One time I tried resoldering the power board myself, which it worked, but it only lasted for like 6 months or so. And apparently this last power board that I have for it, they actually put some really good capacitors in it because it's been working well ever since. And it's even got the old, I think that's a Windows Vista sticker on it. The thing I liked about this monitor was the really fast response time, that 2 millisecond response time. I know the resolution's quite dated. Still using my my antique modded G15 keyboard. These originally had orange illumination, but this one was actually modded with, turn off the lights so you can see the glow of this. Yeah, this one was actually modded with blue LEDs and keeping the same, the Logitech MX1000 mouse. Speakers I replace, I'm a big fan of the Klipsch. Those are the Pro Media 2.1. They have a really good sound. Unfortunately, I live in a condo, so I can't really test that too often. But switching over to the big screen here, the Core V71 is what they're calling the model now. And as you can see on the screen here, these stacks right here, these can be individual drives. You can actually just load this puppy up with all kinds of individual drives, and I don't know how many, like 15 or 20 or so. Really good cable management on this case. I was really, really happy, and this was one of my first computer builds where I didn't have to do any diagnosis whatsoever. I was new to M.2 slots, and basically, yeah, I just put everything in there and plugged in the power, and it worked. I was absolutely amazed. One of my reasons for choosing the ASRock motherboard was price to performance ratio, and also I was a big fan of the 8-bit motherboards. And I don't know if you're familiar with the 8-bit boards. I had an AW90 Max before this one. And the rumor was when 8-bit shut down, basically a lot of the developers in Taiwan literally walked across the street and started making ASRock boards. So a lot of people who are fans of 8-bit usually jump onto the ASRock bandwagon. They're pretty solid boards. Check them out if you haven't had a chance. Performance on this is really good, obviously, for a computer built in 2015. I'm running a 1080, of course, a video card over there, so obviously your scores are going to be through the roof. The only thing is lacking is processor. I don't like to overclock it, even though it is an overclocking enthusiast motherboard. I like to just run it at its native 4 gigahertz or so, but all the other scores, of course, are pretty much off the chart there. Of course, that doesn't really mean anything. That's just it's like Pirates of the Caribbean. It's more guidelines than rules. So I do run benchmarks on this, and I really like this line here on the user benchmark. Let's see. It said, out of all the computers running this processor, 100 PCs with exactly the same components, only 11 perform better. This PC is likely operated by a technical master. Why thank you there, user benchmark website. Is pretty cool. But again, for what is currently a very old computer by computing terms, still scoring as a UFO on this, and 103% on the desktop. Of course, it's telling me my OS Windows, yeah, is old. Yeah, I know that. So this is what we're running in here right now. We've got the i7 4790K, the old Haswell, $365, really? In a second. Oh, okay. So what is it, getting better with age like wine? I guess so. It is a great processor. Got the GTX 1080 from EVGA. Very nice. That one's actually running, let's see, 98th percentile, so that's really good. We're at, what is that, average bench? We're at 83rd percentile on that, 98th percentile on that. There's the old Samsung XP941, which is an enterprise drive. And let's see, it's a 95th percentile. That's pretty good. We're running I replaced the 850 Pro, which was a dedicated games drive. Games, of course, are getting a lot larger nowadays, so replaced the old 850 Pro, and that went into my Lenovo laptop, the Z70, so that's a great drive for that computer. And got the Evo 1 terabyte for games now. Now I don't run out of room for games. That's performing very well. These right here, man, these drives just scream. I've been tempted to go with the 970 Pro M.2 drive, but you know, the way this thing scores, I just go, oh man, just leave it alone. Ain't broke, don't fix it. So a few years back, I replaced the Western Digital Caviar 1 terabyte with an 850. So that was the first change, getting away from the platter drive on that. I already had a solid state drive here, and then the prices on these came down, and so of course I changed that one out too as well. The RAM itself, I heard I could get better RAM. You know, I'm at 75th percentile on this. There's, I think it's the Trident RAM, if I'm not mistaken. But again, it ain't broke, don't fix it. This is the Ripjaws. This was actually pretty good RAM at the time. I'm running 32 gigs of RAM on this particular machine, clocked at 2133 megahertz. So overall, pretty good home computer. You can use this for a lot of different things. Good gaming machine or whatnot. Run a lot of games on this at top resolution on my ancient Samsung monitor. I call it the Blue Monster, and I hope you enjoyed the little tour. A lot of people have been asking me about, what you running over there? Well, you know, it's not brand new, but it scores pretty well. And thanks again for watching. Captain Seaton, Vostro Mothership. Hope you like my videos. Please subscribe and comment. If you have any questions, I'll be happy to answer them as quick as I can. Have a great day. Bye-bye.